Okay. Call the May 2020 St. John Hudson USD 350 Board of Education meeting to order. Any additions or changes?
I had none.
We got a motion to approve.
Mr. President, I move that the board approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Consent agenda.
I have nothing unusual to report on the consent agenda.
Mr. President, I move the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the board approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right, first up, COVID-19 updates.
We got a lot on this. These are things maybe we typically just talk about in our administrative updates, but the continuous learning plan has been going okay. Most of our kids have been participating. I'd say 90% plus. Younger grades, there's been several families that, preschool has been kind of off and on again. They don't have much time. They're limited to 30 minutes a day, so there's the times where they don't do a whole lot. There's a handful of those kids that don't, and then some of the other grades we've had, one or two here, and some of the older kids they've been, more on their own to get connected and get assignments done and those things. And we've had at least one teacher pull in some kids on a limited basis here the last week or so to get things done. They weren't doing it at home, so pulled them in and did some work in the classroom. We've said all along this continuous learning plan, it's really a crisis learning. We just try to get what we can through the rest of the year. If we would have to start up like this in the fall, it would probably look a lot different. We would need to come up with a better plan, but being thrown into this, I've been proud of our staff and how they've handled it, and the teachers really stepped up. Mr. White, anything on that?
Not really. We have a couple families that the kids, we're struggling to get them to do anything, and then 7th and 8th grade is kind of tough because if they're home by themselves, they really don't regulate themselves very well. But I think for the most part, we're getting some input, some engagement from most all of our students at the junior high school level. We do have a few that have chosen not to do anything. Their grades will reflect that.
And the grading, some districts they made the decision early on that, the kid's grade would not be lowered. I think a lot of those districts we've seen, the kids, maybe they've really fallen off. They just don't participate because my grade can't go down. And we've had that expectation that no, their learning still needs to happen. And, the grades are a feedback of how you're doing and what you're doing. And if you're not doing anything, then the grade needs to show that. We don't want it to be a situation where we're just grading a kid and how much his parents can help or whether that kid has the internet or not. We don't want to be in that situation for sure, but it is a feedback of how much you've done and how you're doing on that, because we do expect learning to continue.
And I would say at the junior high school, most of the teachers' grading is more of a participation style grading. So if students are doing anything, they're getting credit for it, and they're going to be okay. It's the ones that choose to just do nothing that are really going to suffer grade-wise. And we're double checking to make sure they have internet access. If they're having trouble with their internet, we're sending packets home. And it's up to them to get the packets back to us and things like that. So we're making a lot of accommodations all the way around just to make sure we're not grading somebody based on their access to technology and things like that.
Hey, Debbie.
Thanks, Josh.
Yep, there we go. Okay, I have you unmuted.
Okay.
Does anybody have any question about the learning process and grading and any of that? How that is going? Okay. We haven't received a lot of feedback. It's been, the feedback we have gotten is on both ends. It's too darn much and it's not enough. But end of the year stuff, working on senior night video. So when we get all that packaged, all the videos compiled for the scholarship awards and all of those things, we'll make that public. Do you have an ETA on that?
No, I don't. Mrs. Hacker's been trying to get information from some of the scholarship committees, and we were hoping that they would maybe send a short video clip themselves, and if not, she and I will video. We're going to talk about it tomorrow. She's going to be in, so I'm hoping, next week sometime maybe we can have a piece. But we've only had one outside organization that sent us a video so far. So we'll probably end up recording most of them ourselves.
We hope to make that a public event, put that out for the public. Our elementary awards assembly, we always do that at the end of the year. Teachers will do that individually with a Zoom meeting with their class or do a recording and send that to the class. We still think that's important to try to do some of those things. Next Tuesday is our last day of school on the calendar. We're going to take that day to have some staff coming back in and help check in the student materials, bring the Chromebooks in, their textbooks if they have them, and those things. So we'll have that spread out through the day. And then teacher checkout will be on Tuesday or Wednesday. We'll have the teachers come in and do their normal checkout. By that time, we should be okay to have larger groups. We should be able to have everybody in, provided they're healthy and everything's okay. But we'll have our staff meeting. Will have to be split up, building levels, our secondary or elementary. But we want to meet with them if we can. So according to the reopening plan, we move up to 30 in a group next week. So as long as things are okay, we're going to do that. Graduation. We've got that on the calendar for July 11th. If things go okay in our county, we may be able to have it in the gym. So that's the goal, is to go ahead and have it in the gym. We're going to plan that way. And if we need to have it outside, we'll have it outside. And if we need to change our plan, we will. But we talked through a lot of these things with our county health department just to see how we are moving forward. But looking at prom on June 20th.
Yeah. We'll just do a pretty prom light per se. Won't have as many decorations as we normally would and stuff, but we'll set it up nice for the kids. Promenade will be virtual, so we'll Facebook Live the promenade where we introduce kids and stuff. And I communicated with the county health department today, and she thought that was the best way. Our out-of-town guests will be subject to the stipulations put forth by KDHE as far as if they've traveled or reside in a mandated quarantine area. So we're not just letting anybody come. We're going to screen that a little bit. Hopefully we have somewhat of a normalcy for the students to close that part of it out. And we'd already spent quite a bit of the money on the prom anyway. So, however, if something changes, and we can't have it the 20th, we're probably just going to call it. We're probably not going to try and reschedule again after that. So based on our current phase out, we should be in the phase out program by then if things continue as normal, where we wouldn't have the restrictions necessarily. But I didn't think scheduling the promenade where we have a couple hundred people in the gymnasium at one time would be probably the thing to do either. So,
And we don't want to risk causing a problem as a graduation too.
It might be irresponsible of us to do that part of it. So.
Is that something kids kind of come up with or they want to do? I mean, I haven't heard much about this.
Yep, I've actually had quite a few kids contact me and ask me if there were plans to do something during the summer. And there was some talk at one time about whether, summer or next fall or even inviting this class back next year. But once they've left and gone off to college, they don't want to come back. So as far as the seniors go, the ones that I talked to preferred to have something this summer if we could. If not, most of them I talked to said if we can't have it in the summer, they'll just consider it lost for them.
Summer athletics, the Activities Association has put some new rules in place for getting back with summer athletics. June 1st, the students can start, in the gym doing some conditioning. They're requiring a 2-week period of conditioning. They have to get 5 days of conditioning in the first week and 5 days in the second week in order to participate in any sort of competition during that third week. So June 15th, they'll be able to get back to doing their MAYB tournaments or summer leagues or anything like that. I understand their intention is to make sure that kids aren't just thrown into the mix day one and they, play a whole weekend of 8 basketball games. But I'm also concerned that they're now requiring kids to, come in 5 days during the week, and they might have to work. They might have other things to do. So we're going to work with our coaches on that, making sure they get some conditioning in, whether they come into the weight room for an hour or whether they do their workout at home. The intention there is that they ramp up and get some conditioning in.
So are those 10 days organized days, or are they just kids need to come in and do something?
Most of our coaches will be doing something organized.
Okay.
And I think we need to give them the flexibility that, don't quit your job just so you can play in summer league starting the 15th. We don't want any of that. But
The key to that is, that's 5 days per week for each kid. That's not a team.
Right.
So it's each kid.
Yeah,
we
so
have to keep that.
if you don't give, one individual kid only gets the 9 days, then he can't play till he gets that 10th day. And I understand their intention there, but it's very muddy waters in what they've put out and very vague. But as long as things go okay, the June 1, we should be up to, I think, groups of 90 together in a confined area. If things, again, if the plan stays that way. If we meet all the benchmarks, I guess, which in our county it looks like we will. We'll plan to start using the weight room and the gyms and having kids come in and just be careful. And then June 15th is when the phase-out period begins, and hopefully we'll be okay. So, any questions or concerns about the summer athletics starting back up with our coaches? And I know Danton's been in touch with the health department and looking at having some rec activities, some summer camp stuff for the kids. I think, Danton, we're waiting to hear on some guidance from her on that. Is that right? Okay. So we'll do other things as we can. We're kind of taking everything, 2 weeks at a time. We're looking May 18th is our next, cutoff point, and then we'll look at June 1st and take it period by period. Next year, I have no idea. There's talk about things won't be back to normal. I don't think we can be at a point where we're just going to pretend like we can have school and keep kids 6 feet apart. It's we either have to say that no, we're going to have school. We're not going to have these pretend rules that, well, we can have school, but let's have some kids in the church and some kids over here, and then we'll have some kids on Monday and some kids on Tuesday. We may have to look at that, but I'm afraid it's going to be a all or nothing thing. There's some discussion about maybe you could do 3rd and 4th grade at a church, and that way if the virus would hit that group, then only they are exposed. But my hope is we're planning on being back to normal next year with maybe some limitations. Everything else is just a guess at this point. But once school's out next week, Blaine and I will really start sitting down and looking at some contingency plans of what that might look like next year. Summer school is one thing, talking about getting our kids back in the school for athletics is one thing, but getting them back in, getting them ready for their academic year next year is another consideration. So we've got several teachers that have expressed interest in doing some summer school, maybe a couple weeks right before we start school, having half-day summer school to get some of these kids ready back where they need to be. Because I'm afraid over this time our achievement gap has widened, just with kids having access to help and some not. With that, we do have some federal money to address this COVID crisis in our schools. It's about $48,000. We've already made some technology purchases, and we've got some extra food service expenses. We'll probably go ahead and spend that this year. We have all next year to spend it, so we could use some of that money for a summer school. That'd probably be about $8,000 or $10,000 to do that, depending on how many kids we'd have. For a 2-week program, it'd be about $1,000 a teacher. We need $800 to $1,000. And then the remainder maybe just to fill a budget hole. So, any questions on anything else? Next year, summer stuff. Mr. White, anything to add?
You don't have anybody in the waiting room, do you? I just thought of that.
No.
No, I don't.
Josh, didn't they were saying about treating smaller communities, smaller towns different than big cities or school?
Not with the governor's plan, what's laid out in these 2-week increments, no. But we can't go ahead of that plan. There will be some counties that will be more restrictive. For example, Ford County right now, I think is still pretty locked down, where our county is moving a little more open next week, even more so. So I think moving forward, it's going to be by county. So in that regard, yeah, we should be treated different than Johnson County or Wyandotte County.
I would say, talking with the health department today, we discussed what are the real numbers, the ones who've recovered versus the ones who've had it, because right now we see numbers. Stafford County still has one. We haven't had one for a few weeks, and she thought that here within the next few weeks we'd start to see numbers of current cases versus numbers of total contracted, and that would give us a better story of where we're at surrounding this.
So we weren't really interested in coming up with plans A through G for what we're going to do next year, but we really will start to look at some of those what ifs. What are we going to do? We do need to be thinking about it, but right now our goal is to get through the end of the school year and get our summer started, and then, we may make a plan June 1 and by August 1 it's completely different. So I guess that's all I had on that one.
Okay. Budget update.
This is a serious concern with our state. I'll give you the quick version here. The state has a $650 million budget hole to fill by the end of next budget year. The state had a balance of $1.1 billion to start this budget year. So the state's fiscal position was very strong. Those budget woes are only directly related to this crisis and what's happened to the economy because of it. So that $653 million is really more like a $1.3 billion hole, because that $650 just gets us back to zero, and we have to have a 7% ending balance in our state. So you pretty much double that. So the governor does not want to cut schools and has committed to protect funding as much as possible, but with half of the state's general fund budget devoted to K-12 education, it would be hard to do that without some help. So without any help to reduce spending by $650 million, it would take across-the-board cut of about 10%. That means if they cut across the board 10%, we would lose about $250,000. That's huge. We have about $475,000 in operational cash balance, so that would eat up over half of that pretty quickly if we would see a cut like that. There is about almost $1.3 billion in federal aid available, used to fill that could be used to fill the budget gap, but there's not flexibility in that funding at this point. But additional federal dollars or flexibility with that funding could fill that entire budget gap. There's politics with that of, are we going to bail out the states? Kansas is unique in that our budget position was strong. It's just this crisis. The federal government is doing what they can to make sure people aren't losing their jobs in small businesses. And same thing applies to teachers and firefighters and local governments and those things. There's jobs to be protected there. So I hope that flexibility comes through. There's some uncertainty about that. So what we're looking at is somewhere between a cut of $250,000 or they go ahead and increase the funding like they planned, and we'll see about $75,000 more. So there's a lot of uncertainty about that right now. Dale Dennis with State Department of Education said, said it's likely that the governor will propose a budget using those federal dollars. The legislature will come back for one day on May 21st, and only one day. So pretty much whatever she proposes, they will have to vote yay or nay because they don't have more than one day to work any legislation. It would be impossible to do that. But so Dale Dennis thinks we'll be okay moving forward. It still has me losing sleep. I think there's a sense from some folks, and maybe you've heard it, I haven't heard it, but other districts they have that, well, we're saving all this money during the shutdown. That should help for next year. But I was going through our budget trying to figure out what we've been saving, and really with some field trips and our activity trips is really about the only thing. We're paying all of our employees according to what the legislature told us we had to do. We're still burning fuel to deliver meals on our routes, so that's not much of a savings there. So there's not a lot of cushion there from savings. Also, consider the property valuation decrease that we've talked about. 50% of our oil valuation has been reduced for this year, so that will affect our budget. And that means about 2 to 3 mils higher in our LOB and lower revenue for our capital outlays. So a bad time for all of those things to hit with a rough economy. So it's a nervous situation, but if things rebound quickly, we'll all be okay. Any questions right now on the budget situation? I'll keep you posted on what comes out of this, but we should know more next week and have a direction.
Thank you. Negotiations.
Not really much on this with our budget situation. I don't think it's appropriate to be talking about salary negotiations because I have no idea what to tell them. We could get together right now and make an agreement of we can increase salaries X%, and then if we get a budget cut, we're going to have to meet again and amend that. So I think it's best if we just postpone those negotiations if you all are okay with that, until we know more. And again, that should be next week.
Okay. Recreation building.
Just a refresher, the Recreation Commission has found a building they would like to use for their operations for office space and exercise facility for the community. And, state law does not allow them to purchase property, so they're looking to acquire that facility. So that state law requires either the school district or the city to be involved in this somehow because of that state law. So we've been working on how could we do this. We're looking at a lease purchase agreement to essentially finance the building. We've done some of those with our purchasing buses and fixing up our facility. It turns out that's just too complicated to do for real estate. There's a lot of title work involved and deeds, and it's a very unusual situation, and would require a lot more legal cost than probably would see benefit from for that price of a building. So we were looking at purchasing with a lease purchase and then lease to the rec for 5 years, but that lease purchase won't work. So now our next best option is to just purchase for cash and then lease the building to the rec commission. We can't do without that cash. We need that cash up front. So giving the rec the option to pay for that lease up front would help alleviate our cash situation where we're not essentially financing that over the 5 years. And it would also save them some interest cost. If we would finance it over those 5 years, then they would have some interest cost. Danton or Trey, did you guys have anything you wanted to add on this?
Not necessarily. We're just kind of here to answer any questions if anybody have any.
Okay, so the recommendation is that we would just do a straight purchase contract for the building and acquire the building. Then that would be contingent on the rec board approving that lease agreement, because we don't need the building. We're doing this to help the rec commission get into that facility because state law requires us to be involved in that. And then we'll turn around and lease it to them for the 5 years, and that payment will be due up front for the 5-year lease. Why 5 years? 5 years is for $65,000 is about fair market value. If it was just for 1 year, that $65,000 would be an inappropriate lease fee probably for that size of a building for a 1-year lease term.
So Josh,
Yes.
we're basically saying that we're going to purchase the building provided they approve that and come up with the money. Do they have that much in funding right now that this is a done deal for the most part?
Trey and Damon, I'll let you guys answer that.
Yes, we have the cash necessary to pay it up front.
So you're just waiting then to get approval from the board since we're going to purchase it, right? From your board.
Will we be
Okay.
approved?
If we approve to purchase it tonight, then your board is just going to,
We would formally approve it at our next board meeting if you guys do that tonight.
So,
and then we would step forward with purchasing it.
yeah, so the recommendation is to approve the purchase of the facility for the USD 350 to purchase the facility contingent on the rec board approving that lease agreement. So if the board takes action tonight to do that, then the attorney will finalize that lease agreement, and provided that the rec board approves that 5-year lease agreement, and the payment, we'll go ahead and move forward, and Derek would execute that contract. So I sent that contract to you all, and I gave you a paper copy, pretty standard real estate contract.
So do we have to put the money out first and then they're paying us back?
Yes, it would
Okay,
be a matter of days, I would think. Yeah,
okay.
we would work that out, where we're not in a cash-strapped position or anything.
And the rec commission would incur closing costs, lawyer fees, title work.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And they would insure the facility, liability and property, and all that.
Which Trey can probably take care of, right?
I'll do my best.
Okay, I don't have the paperwork right here in front of me for the exact wording, but I move to approve that the school board purchase the building for $65,000.
And that'd be contingent upon the approval of the lease agreement by the rec commission and authorize the board president to execute the contract. You okay with that amendment to your motion?
Thank you.
Debbie?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the board approve the purchase of the building at 205 East 2nd in St. John for $65,000 contingent on the approval of the lease agreement by the Recreation Commission and authorize the board president to execute the contract. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right, house remodel.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Yep.
All of these things, this rec building and the house remodel project, they've gone much, much slower than I expected. The attorney's been working on getting title work done. Just with the courthouse closed, trying to get that done has been, he said it's been a lot more work than it normally is. And of course, I heard that, and I heard a lot more dollars than it normally would be, but he's pretty close on having all that title work done. The board will need to accept the donation of that property, and then we'll sign the deed, and I'm sure Derek will be the one that has to do that and sign all that paperwork. But my hope is that at least by next month we have that ready to go. But that all looks like it's in the works and ready to go. So just finalizing everything, and we're planning on doing that project. Tom was a little worried that he's going to donate the house and we're not going to be able to do it, but we'll make it work. It's going to happen. So
He's one of your off-site locations.
yeah.
Is there a way we can recognize the Garner family for donating
Yeah.
property like that?
Yeah, I think we need to. We get that in the paper. Going to publicize that program too. It'll be a neat program.
Any questions? Okay. Fee schedule.
On your supporting documents, page 17, the fee schedule that we're recommending for approval. It kind of works out a strange timing. I don't know. I guess we've always done this in May, and creature of habit, I guess we just keep doing it in May. Sometimes we're ready to approve the meal fees, and sometimes we're not. We're kind of relying on the state to get us the worksheet that we figure how much we increase, because we're relying on the federal food service program, so we can't use those federal dollars to subsidize our paid lunches. So periodically we have to increase our lunch fees, our meal fees by a certain amount. So we don't know what that number is. Our goal would be to not raise them for next year, with times being tough like they are for folks. Our food service budget has been in pretty good shape the last couple of years. So we'll just have to update them. All of the other fees remain static. So it's my recommendation to approve these fees as they are. We'll have to come back and update them with the meal fees later.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the board approve the fee schedule as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carried. All right, board member activities and reports. Sean?
No.
Nothing for me either. Administrative reports.
Hold on just a minute.
Oh,
I have
sorry,
one.
Debbie.
We did, just for your information, we did table the discussion about construction. We realized that this is not the right time to be looking at spending that kind of money to either remodel Haskins or to build a new construction out on that special ed building. And we also this week are trying to schedule a special meeting to discuss termination. It was scheduled for this morning at 8 o'clock. We didn't have a quorum, so it's being rescheduled for Thursday. We do have a meeting scheduled for next week. And right now it looks like we're going to be doing Zoom on that one as well in the evening. But that's all I've got for the special ed co-op. But I wanted you to know that we have definitely tabled the construction discussion. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Administrative.
I don't have anything more than what we talked about, but Steve, Mac, and Christian, you might tell them that their concert tonight was really good. And the only other thing that we didn't discuss before was the sports banquet that we normally have that recognizes our sports. I got together with all of our high school and junior high coaches, trying to come up and formulate a way to recognize those kids still. And what we came up with was that each coach will do something, whether they send a letter out or do something during the summer with those kids or whatever, but it'll be based on individual sport this year, unfortunately. So.
Thank you.
Our food service program will run through the end of this week. We're going to pick that back up with our summer lunch program June 1st. That'll run through mid-July. Depending on how things go with the reopening plan, we may bring kids back into the cafeteria, and we'll do breakfast for part of that, and the delivery, or not delivery, the grab and go like we have been. So that program will continue. It's been very successful. We kind of dropped off the last couple of weeks, kind of like with everything else. It feels like summer break is here. So library opening, they've got a plan in place. Next week they're going to start with limited services. People can request materials, and they'll set them out for them, or and they can come pick them up off the porch, whatever. June 1st they're going to start back with in-person services on a limited basis, with a limited number of people. So they've got a good plan in place to reopen for the public. Worked on and got submitted a grant for an outdoor learning space. Essentially, it's just a grant for a greenhouse or area in the courtyard. And we have the high tunnel and we have the quail run out there, and Mr. Delp does a great job with that program when we have school. But I'd like to make that area more of available for all the grades, do some planting beds. Maybe if we get that grant for the greenhouse, maybe some elementary classes can start some plants in the greenhouse and move them to planting beds as the weather warms up. Do some projects out there and make it a better area, because it's not very visually pleasing right now. But, we've got a pond out there right now today, so maybe enhancing that pond to make it look like it's supposed to be there, and those stream beds and things like that. So we're working on a committee to do that. Our maintenance projects, they're knocking out the flooring in the weight room and shop classroom, polishing that concrete. Boy, that process takes a while. They've been working hard at it, and it's looking good. Been working on washing the building, doing a regular summer cleaning, looking at taking down those signs. I don't think they've done anything on that. The high school and grade school signs, those old Art Deco look. We're going to get those off there and maybe clean them up. I don't know if they need to go back where they are or go in the hallway or something. They're pretty dated. Need to be refurbished. Working on cleaning bleachers. So a lot of our summer maintenance stuff, they're getting done now. So Teacher Appreciation Week. Yes, ma'am.
What's the status on the library roof?
We had a crew come in and fix it, and it's not quite fixed. The roof is asphalt, and then at some point they went back with the foam covering, and then on top of that now is rubber with gravel, and those rubber seams have failed. About 6 or 8 years ago we fixed a lot of those rubber seams, but those seams go under the gravel, and we think that's what's happening, is the seams have failed underneath the gravel. It's getting under the rubber and traveling to the downspout and making its way into the building that way. So we had some repairs done, but they didn't get what needed to get done. It's better, but we're having all the roofs assessed, and they're not done with their assessment yet. So emergency patching on the library will happen again once this rain stops, but that roof likely needs replaced.
Thank you.
Yep. So that will all be rolled into our capital outlay budget. Carl and Derek have served on that committee, and we're going to try to get together before this board meeting, but really need that roof assessment to come back to, so we know. That'll be a big ticket item, but trying to address the roof situation, HVAC, those rooftop units, we're looking at doing those in the fall instead of this summer. Cooling is not a problem. Heating is the problem with those units, and the danger there. We need to get those fixed right away. So we should be good for the cooling season, and it's pretty limited. So trying to come back and do that in the fall. Our front entryway, that stucco, whatever that's supposed to be, is falling apart, and it's just gradually getting worse. So we need to address that. The bus situation, and then how do we do all that with potentially lower funding. And then back up to the Teacher Appreciation Week. Normally our Stuco does a lunch for all the staff, and PTO does some things, and we didn't really get to see them this year, so we went ahead and the district purchased a gift card for a local business, a local restaurant. We thought that was a good token for appreciation, so everybody was very appreciative of that, and helped support our local businesses too that are really struggling. So I did want to let you know about that. We did that for staff appreciation. I think that's all I had for my report.
Okay, thank you. Executive session.
Probably 10 minutes. Executive session. I got a couple things we need to address.
Okay. Motion.
Mr. President, I move the board go into executive session to discuss the performance of specific employees or potential new hires to the non-elected personnel exception under KOMA with Mr. Meyer
And Mr. White.
and Mr. White included. And we return to session at 9:10 in this room.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the board go into executive session to discuss the performance of specific employees and potential new hires pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception under KOMA, with Mr. Meyer and Mr. White to be included, and that we return to open session at 9:10 in this room. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, call the meeting back to order. All right, resignations or contracts?
We had a few of those that we need to clean up on some of the positions there that Mr. White and I hadn't fully communicated on, so we'll need to table that. My recommendation is to table that, and we'll come back here in the next couple of weeks and get that approved with a special meeting.
Okay. Future agenda items.
Lots of things to do here coming up in June. A lot of the year-end stuff, renewing our insurance policies, ratifying our negotiated agreement if we can get there by then, considering pay raises and those things, and then the big one will be a plan for returning to school. So that's it for now.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Oh, aye.
Motion carried.
All right. See you, Debbie.
All right,